Hey everybody, Texas Stroker here, Lance's Performance Shop along the Mopars.com. What we have tonight very well could be the fastest KC tool haul I've ever done. No promises, we might still drag the thing out 30 minutes, don't know. But I think it's going to go relatively quick. Why? Pre-selected these items. It's kind of one of those deals where some of this stuff was there and I say, hey, I should call in an email and I say, hey, can you have the guy send everything else that's come in on other orders? And that's what we did here. And you think, oh, it's going to be a huge tool haul. What's the deal? Not necessarily, because I was sitting here and I was thinking, like, how should we structure this? And I think I'm just going to stick with the nitty and the gritty. There are two items here that I need. They fall in two categories. One, something I need immediately in the shop, and two, traffic finger for some reason. Something that is going to be a gift that's also needed really soon. So we're going to jump right in. If you did not know, you should know. Anytime you buy from KC Tool, you get the bit of thanks. It's currently shipping as a number 2 Phillips from Witte. If you exceed the $75 threshold, you get yourself the German tool sticker pack, and I'm sorry, 100. And if you exceed 75, you get free freight. But where should we begin? Number one, if this is still too long for you, I use timestamps. I link everything. Do I make anything off those links? Still make nothing off those links, solely there for your convenience. But I suppose we need to get started with this. You're like, that's a rather unassuming hex key. What is that? Vera Stavilla? You know, their run-of-the-mill black cheap stuff. There's no sleeve, no rainbow colors, no powder coating, no ball in, no extended length, just looks run-of-the-mill. Well, you would be correct, and this is run-of-the-mill from a Harbor Freight 4x6 bandsaw. There's two things that can go wrong in that situation. Number one, this. Number two, the fastener. And, I'm banking on the fastener not being great, and that coupled with this likely not being of the best material equals a bad scenario. What am I dealing with exactly on the bandsaw that would require this hex key? It's 4mm, by the way. Set screws and pulleys. Very simple, very innocent. However, should we round one of those out? Should we strip it? Should we, take it out? You basically have to take it out to put the cover on, which I'm not sure I'm going to do, but I suppose we should. But assuming we follow directions, which are subject to interpretation and restructure. But if we do things by the book, we need to pull, you've got your motor pulley and your drive pulley, right? So we need to take those off, and we need to put the cover on, and then obviously we would need to do what? Reinstall the pulleys. So that brings us to a situation. We've got fastener here and fastener here, right? We've got to get those out. That was included. That's nice. That's great. Unless you do some crazy stuff in life, like there's people that are going to have hardware, they're going to have fasteners, they're going to have, all kinds of stuff. You could have to inadvertently snap something off, you could melt it, you could lose it, and you can simply replace the fastener. These tiny, tiny, tiny little, like metric Allen set screws are not something that's easy to procure, all right? Like I deal in this stuff, all the time, not this type of stuff, but, like with suppliers and, fasteners in particular. These are things that they just don't have. People don't buy them. They don't stock them. It's stuff I don't know, like I'm sure they could track them down for you if they wanted to. It's almost one of those like McMaster car things, right? You're probably not going to be able to go to the local mom and pop if you still have one. You're probably not going to be able to go to Home Depot or Lowe's and snag one. Probably not even going to be able to hit up Fastenal or Granger or wherever. It's one of those things. It's like you're going to be hunting in the dark corners of the internet, and then you're going to pay like, the thing is like pennies, right? And you're going to wind up paying like $4 for it, and then you're going to pay like $15 in freight, and you've got a $20 set screw. And so I'm trying to avoid that by not using this, right? Do we have any information on this? It doesn't even have the size that it is. That's super convenient, right? That gives you a good idea of the quality we're dealing with here. The fact that it's never been used and like it's shiny on the hex corners just from rolling around in a plastic bag touching nothing tells me what we need to know there, right? You have to be smart with these little cheap tools, right? So my logic is, hey, what can we do to keep it in good shape? And you're thinking, I'll run your Vera stuff, right? Hex Plus profile. That'd be great, but the sleeve ain't gonna let that happen. You got to go down into the pulley. And so my next thought was, well, let's just put a bit socket on it, right? You know, we can kind of control that fairly well. I currently do not own deep. I could create some by like broken. I'm not sawing this stuff, okay? But like there's some that are broken that I could like plug in, jam in, and use a set screw, ironically, and something like this to have a long hex. But I don't own that, and I'm not currently set up with a 4. I've got lots of broken stuff, but not 4mm broken hex keys. I don't particularly want to modify any of the expensive ones. So we have this, and it's, as you might have guessed, too shallow. So what's a guy to do? You're like, hey, you brought in a ton of hex keys, idiot. Just use one of those. Well, I could definitely use this. This is from VI. I currently have the Veras at work for something to do with the forklift. That's a nightmare in and of itself. This little guy right here is from VHA, and it's obviously hex on this end, ball end down there. Super nice hex keys. People kind of sleep on them, in my opinion. But it's a deal where this will totally fit. And I think we can spin one, but the other one is like really in there. Like really, really in there. And so obviously this is not going to happen. You get lots of leverage like this, which would be great. I'm sure that would help me out significantly. But again, right here, there's 90-degree bend down. What do we have here? We don't have the access that we need, right? So we're stuck like this. I could put a wrench, you know, wrapped around with the box end. We could get a little cheater pipe. I've actually bent some conduit, you know, for stuff like this. Sometimes the conduit winds up bending, but that's usually on a bigger, you know, like seized hex plug. This thing shouldn't be seized. It's just stupid tight. And it's one of those things. It's not a good quality fastener, right? So this is kind of questionable at best, right? So what I needed to do was procure something that could go deep and that could provide leverage. And I wasn't actually quite sure. I almost thought I had bought the metric T-handles. I didn't ever remember it because it's not a priority, metric stuff. I knew I had the SAE. I knew I needed 4mm. I verified it. Didn't have them. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. And, subsequently, what I did, I nearly just pulled the trigger on a set, but I thought, you know what? I want to investigate them. I'm weird. Gotta be thrifty on this stuff. Went through Gedore. Some of you will know what this is. I've talked about these many times, and it's not the bit socket set. No, this is something different. You're about to get to see one of them in hand, as am I. It is their part number D2 2142-4, the 4 being significant because it's the size. Not even going to let you see it yet. I'm going to come up here. It is bagged. I've not had the joy of having it in hand yet. We're going to see if we can't get the cuttix to make a nice slit for me without cutting myself. And there we are. Might have to rip this a bit, but I'm stupid excited about these. This is something, if these would be available in SAE sizes. So many times with German tools you hear me complain like, man, I would totally buy that if they had it in fractional stuff. Well, this is one of those items. This would have been the route that I went, in part mainly. The color scheme is just really good. And this is it. You're like, disappointment reigns supreme. It's just a longer version of that, and you're holding 90. Is it like a super deep? No, that's what you did. You're saying like where that VI 90 stops there, you must have got one that like comes out way out here, some specialty deal, huh? Well, let's check this out first. We got the 4mm ball. So what's special aside from the length? That's what's special. Beautiful. This is made in Slovenia. This is something, like I said, I wanted for a really long time. You got the double end here, so you've got the standard hex profile coming out the back. The big thing with the T-handle, I can generate a lot of torque. I don't have to put a wrench on that. We don't have to mar that thing up. I'm not gonna lie, for cheap stuff like this, I sometimes have better luck with a straight hex profile. If these were available in 2 iterations, I would have bought this straight. That also would have helped me because if I wound up liking this, liking how it performed, how it felt in hand, I then could have bought the set with the ball end, you know, not have had redundancy. The good news is, if this works and I'm happy with it, I can still buy the set and not have redundancy. How, you ask? By leaving this at the bandsaw. So, I'm hoping I don't have to change blades or speeds all the time, but in the event that we have to tweak things or adjust it, well, this could sit right there and be happy. So, This is the big payoff, though. As you can see, it's kind of grooved, contoured for your hand. Obviously, if we had like the tin here, it would be way bigger, sized proportionally. It would fit my hand real good. This kind of being the 4, it's a decent size. It's very comfortable in hand. Obviously, it depends how you hold that, where the leverage is. You know, this could easily dig into you. But once we break it free, we should be fine, and this will be more than adequate, as would this. This just, again, sadly does not clear. So that is what I snagged. The price point on that, I don't know that I mentioned it before, $14.79. You can get the set for 80 to 100, somewhere in there. Don't hold me to the sizes on it, but like I said, had this stuff been available in SAE, I would have bought it years ago. But it's not, so I didn't, and there we are. Now, coming in next, and akin to everything that you see here, I've got another follow-up, because like I said, this I'm mainly interested in just getting the set screw out without rounding it out, so it's still functional, right? And then after that, any of this stuff could work, including this next item from Witte. This sucker right here is going to be their part number 63052. It'll set you back $767. You might have guessed. You're like, oh hey, more hex keys? Nope, I'm that guy. You should know. You should know the screwdriver channel by now. Cannot leave a good thing alone. Interestingly enough, you're like, man, you should have bought the set of those. They don't have one like KC Tool. Like, there's not a set. I've inquired about this stuff. So why just this one? I wanted to feel it out. I have an exact need for this one. This is something we very well... If you go back to German tool reviews, the VH 3K handle, only one I have close to me right now is going to be this bit driver. But they had really cool stuff. Back then, they did yellow SAE and red metric, so the same design. You would have yellow, you would know that it's fractional. You would have red, you would know that it's metric. And they had the hex drivers. I knew I'd use the SAE ones, but I kind of like, oh, well, I don't know, you know. And then, of course, they phased it out. I'm like, dadgum. And, of course, they have the soft finish ones. It's just kind of why I said that looked so good. I'm a sucker for black and blue, and I've had really good luck with these Witte handles. I like the tri-lobe design. Cool thing here, if I can turn that so you can actually read the number, it's a 4. It's a hex, so it identifies it when you place it in a stand, in a bag, what have you. Also has a hanging hole, because again, there's a very real chance that maybe that gets put back in the box because it's nice and fancy. Maybe this just gets left behind. This is much easier to keep tabs on than a random hex key, even if it is colored like that. This helps significantly, but something like that, or just a chrome shaft, especially think of all the chips, whatever you're cutting, whether it's aluminum, you know, steel, plastic, wood, whatever. There's not even a chip brush on the thing. So if you're leaving this out or have it situated somewhere, there's a good chance she's going to get pretty dirty. This will just stick out, be easy to pick up, it's easy to service. We're going to go to town in that manner. Combined, it lets me try out both of these so we can get a feel. I've never had ball into anything that I can think of from Witte, so we'll get to test that. This also, I'll get to feel it out. Super excited about it. And then that keeps this safe back in the set. We never have to use this thing. And this just doesn't reach, so it can go back with its other people for short profiles that it can actually cover. So, this is sort of phase 1. This is what I needed now to get that pulley off. So I can continue tearing the saw down. The pulley is at some point in time, I don't know when it happened. I don't keep up with Harbor Freight 4x6 bandsaws, which, again, the 4x6 I'm talking about, there's tons of different companies with it. The OEM at some point, I guess, went from like a steel pulley to aluminum. I'm actually going to have to deburr that aluminum pulley, which is another reason I need it off. And that's one of those situations where had to get this stuff in. I was placing an order. I've got what coming up? My nephew's birthday. And so I'm sitting there and I'm thinking like, okay, well, am I going to buy $20 worth of tools and pay freight on it? Heck no. All right. So I'm like, what can I get my nephew for his birthday? I'm sitting here and I'm trying to like, yeah, well, what would be neat? What would be cool? And there was an item that was tool of the day. And that's sort of one of the reasons I rushed to order this. And it was from Witte, and it's not that driver, obviously. it's going to be their part number 691008. And it'll set you back $25.67. And if you're like, well, what is it? Well, it's right here. And if you're thinking like, was that like a 4-piece like Philips #1 posi slotted set thing? What's the deal going on there? It looks like the same handle size roughly. It's like your foremost for what would you get your nephew that has that? Well, it's also this, believe it or not, and you're welcome. If you snagged this set, because this didn't cost $25.67, this cost $25.67, this cost $19.99 because it was tool of the day. If you're like, why did you pay $25.67 for this? Well, just a few days prior to, I've had these on the wish list for a while. I knew they existed. They were never in stock. Of course, anytime I order and I've got stuff that I want but I don't need, I kind of wait so I can get stuff shipped sooner. And I had some stuff and I was like, oh, well, I think I'm finally going to throw that crud on there. There's probably a tool of the day that was out, and I thought, well, this is my time to get stuff that's back ordered. So I bought these for $25.67. What happens a couple days later? It's tool of the day. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking like, that's about par for the course. But that allowed me to snag these for $19.99. If you're like a really dedicated viewer on the channel, you will know my nephew has some stuff similar to this because I gave him a screwdriver set from Witte. Why? He picked out a blue box, and so I thought, I'm going to try to color coordinate this thing a little bit, get him something quality, something that I like as well, since, I'm over at my sister's house and I have to use the stuff a lot. So this ties in perfectly. Hook and pick set, needed all the time. Little projects, even like barbell sleeves and collars. If anyone wants to like clean that up, what do you have? You got a little ring in there. So, O-rings, garden hose, just all kinds of stuff. Thinking of the basics, but thinking like, what's something cool and practical that you can get that somebody would need? I think this is a significant step up from like junk you would buy at a lot of places. It looks good. I've never had any experience with these, but I have had experience with these. If you go back to it and you think, hey, a little driver right there, I seem to remember something like, yeah, there it is. Well, what? I didn't know Witte did green. Well, they don't. This is Stavilla. Thing is, who manufactures it? It would be Witte. So one can easily deduce, especially when I grab this style of driver that's set up the same way, that these hook and pick sets would in fact have likely tied in with Witte somewhere, right? Now, since this inception, I've seen that like these are made in China. I don't know if they've updated that. I was under the impression it would be like, place in Germany does it, or if it puts the handles on it or something. I don't really know the particulars, but I'm pretty happy with these. I have not a full set of 4 at work, but my workhorses, I seem to always go straight in 90. Sometimes I use it. This is more of like a pick, like literally O-rings and stuff, the captain hook. Sometimes we use that. This one, not so much. Scraping is more of its purpose because, in my opinion, anything that I'm trying to like pick up and lift, it's just cumbersome with that, right? So these two are my workhorses here at the house. I don't know that this will show up real well. You can kind of see it if I tell you what it is. If it looks like this doesn't come to a point and it's rolled over that direction, that's because it is. And if I show you this one, and you think, hey, it looks like there's an uptick there, sort of like, frosting or something on a cupcake, that's because there is. These are used a lot, and so the tips, they just kind of ball over. What have I done to do that? Have I abused them? No, I've depinned stuff. I've done typical hook and pick. These are small. Like, I want to point that out. These aren't like full-size radiator picks. You're not pulling hoses off or prying stuff. It's dainty stuff. O-rings, depinning, tons of depinning things. And that's just over time, when you've got such a fine tip, because these will stab the snot out of you. Now they're just kind of balled over. So, with Stavilla, it's actually cheaper to buy. This is the set of 4. There's no other iterations you can get, no different handle sizes, no different head configurations. It's way cheaper to buy standalone. I don't know why. That's just how it is. It's a situation, if you want the set of 4 in a pouch, you can get it and you're like, well, I want the pouch. It doesn't cost that. It costs significantly more. It costs way more than I'm willing to pay for a plastic pouch. You know, your results may vary, but for me, this works fine. I don't need that. Because typically, again, I haven't used these, so I can't speak on it. But anytime I've had a case like this, whether it's files or bits or anything, it's just a matter of time before it rips at the seams or at the bottom and the stuff starts falling out, and it's more of a frustration than a convenience, and it typically doesn't take long. Maybe these will be better. I'll get to find out now because I have this set. Now, since this is a gift, I'm going to give my nephew the one that doesn't have this adhesive label on it, and that also means this is what we will open. So, it's pretty cool. They had this folded. I didn't realize this until I grabbed it out of the box, but you've got the Witte branding there. You can hang this up if you need to. They don't particularly have like dividers. It's not like a wrench roll from Stavilla, you know, where it comes up all the way type of a thing. But you'll note there's these slots, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So you can sort of position them where you will. I do not know of any other head designs. I don't know of a bigger set. As far as I know, this is it. But I'm going to go ahead. Let's just get my old faithful here, the straight guy, out. All right. Comes to a nice tip. This is a good handle. Feels classic Witte. You can see here, just like with the Stavillas, which probably is worn off, you've got a, that's honestly just a black dot. I thought, huh, that's odd. Okay, if that looks like an eyeball in a dot, that's because that's what it is. What they're supposed to look like is this. I'll have to actually take a look at the set from my nephew. If I get this to focus for you. Does that look cool? It should, because this little guy right here, okay, if that looks like it's sort of the offset one that I told you I can't do much with, it is. If this looks like it is the hook, you know, Captain Hook type design, that's because it is. And this one, if we take a look here, we know it's the 90-degree bend, and when I flip this around, that's what we have here. So what this is doing, I guess it technically is sort of like the profile, especially if you use it like I do and round it over. That's accurate. This would be the long one that comes to a ball point, right? But I think in the past they had, let me get the straight one here. Where's the straight one? Right here. Yeah, check this out. This is the Stavilla straight. It's going to be really hard to see that thing. Let's see if we can get it to focus a little bit better. What you're looking at is the part number, but then like a picture of the tool showcasing the handle to the point, right? So you'll have to trust me on that. I think I've showed it in greater detail. I don't know why that is just a dot. This one is too. I can see it through the packaging, so you tell me. I mean, it's technically functional. These three are isolated. What was interesting to me, though, is this. And I'm going to find out, make sure it wasn't an optical illusion. Yeah, look at that. So these are pretty small. This is like precision driver type of a size. These, I mean, you'd argue like some companies that don't do precision drivers might have this handle with a precision, but that's another story. But you can see this covers like a lot more real estate. So if these are like cumbersome to you, you know, because your hands are big and these are small and they sort of wear you out, this might be a better option for small picks like this. But if I take this number 4 hex that we just bought, aside from this being flea strike, you know, for grip, it's pretty much the same handle. Now, tail of the tape will be with the actual blade end itself, and as you can see, it's basically a mirror copy. So if you're indifferent on color, obviously green you go Stavilla, blue you go Witte. But if it's a situation where maybe you use this in the 90 all the time too, but you wanted to get the other two, for the price you would pay, even going individually, especially on tool of the day, you're almost at the price of this set. You know, tool of the day, I mean, it's $25 item. It's like coming down to 19. It's a good buy, but definitely something to keep on the radar, particularly if you're looking to upgrade, say, from like a really, really cheap Harbor Freight pick set, which, you know, they're good for a while, but just like these, they will ball up. You get to a point when you balled up enough, You either have to take it to a grinder, and eventually, you know, you grind off so much that you can't access things where you used to, type of a deal. Get your money's worth from it, but if you're a fan of the tri-lobe design, the color scheme, the branding, the hanging hole, the pouch, whatever it might be, this could be a hot ticket for you. So, next up, you're thinking like, what were your goals here? You needed the bandsaw set screw, you needed a gift for your nephew. Okay, well, what was the other thing? Free freight. That's right, you're not going to pay freight. No. So I didn't. And if you're thinking like, wait, you got like 25 and 19, it's 44, and then like 20 bucks of Hex stuff. You're $10, $15 shy of free freight, buddy. I was, and it was getting really close to midnight when this wouldn't have been tool of the day and could have sold out. So what did I do? This. And if you're thinking like, oh, Gedore pliers wrench. Well, that is right. Now, that is my pair. That is a well-used pair of Gedore pliers wrench. And what I got for my nephew is in this bag. This is Gedore's part number. Let's actually go by the ticket here so we can make it quicker. 183, the JC, that's going to be their 2-component grip. These are the 10-inch. Price is $104.64. I think they were on sale, which was a win, but it definitely got me free freight, which was the goal. I'm going to go ahead and keep these bagged up. I hope you don't mind. We'll just take a look at these. Why Gedore? Well, once again, this is kind of like his big ticket item, if you will. And did he ask for this? No, but will it be functional and useful throughout his life? Yes, you're welcome. I'm looking out for you. I do these things because I care about you and love you. So that's my little tribute to my nephew there. But what is this for someone his age? It's essentially a full-on wrench set. Is this SAE? Is this metric? You bet. It's whatever you want it to be. Okay. Will this fit weird PVC stuff if him and his friends build a potato cannon? Sure. Yeah. Will this come in handy when I'm over there and I have to build stuff? You know, recently I actually took mine over there, this exact pair, and what was I doing with it? Well, we were building a squat rack. So if he ever adds accessories to that, that's a big deal, you know, like wrench sets, which I might also get him for this birthday. It won't be anything like this caliber, you know, it'll probably be something cheaper, but 1/4 to 3/4, something like that. Well, Rogue uses a lot of 5/8 hardware, which is great. I do too. 15/16s. That said, I don't have a 15/16 wrench at my nephew's house. This will give us that capacity. Now, what I can pair with this, it'll probably be Knipex. They're the most frequent sale item. But 2 pliers wrenches is a really, really good item for a starter tool set, in my opinion. So again, especially like, let's say that you've just got basic, maybe 10 through 19 and 1/4 to 3 or 3/8 to 3/4 even. This will come in, this will do your 1/4 and 5/16. This will handle your 8 and 9 millimeter stuff. And similarly, this will go bigger and do the big stuff that you wouldn't have a wrench for. So I think this, like I said, this will be the big ticket item for them. These are just going to be super useful. They match a screwdriver set, they match the toolbox, they match the pliers. Does any of that matter? No, but it's a deal where, you know, I'm an uncle, I don't have kids of my own. And I can spend my money how I want to, and I think I'm giving a pretty cool little gift here. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. But that was the haul. That's what we brought in, and I've somehow done this in under 30 minutes, which is crazy fast by my standards. There's some other stuff I wanted to show you, but like I said, this stuff I literally need to get it in so I can kind of like size up boxes and wrapping scenarios and whatnot. But the other things, I need to tear down a bandsaw. So useful and fun, I guess, is the theme of this tool haul. So if you have bought these, again, this is a relatively new addition at KC Tool, the Witte picks and stuff. If you have them, how long have you had them? How have they held up? Similarly, if you have the Stavilla ones, what do you do with them? Have you had yours ball up like mine, or yours mint condition? Are they the best picks you've ever used? Do you hate them and you would rather buy the $1.99 Harbor Freight ones? Do you think the Harbor Freight and these suck and you get brand X, Y, or Z? Tell people. That's the end goal. Help people out. If people see these, they want to buy them. They might have questions like, oh, should I get this or should I get Snap-on? Blue's not my color, but man, you know, it looks like pretty nice picks. I like the bigger handle. Tell people, especially if you have first-hand experience, it helps them make a best decision possible for their scenario. But on that note, I think I'm going to run in, got leftovers to heat up, I can catch the end of the Mavericks and Pelicans, and I can be ready to go to town on the bandsaw and have cool stuff for my nephew. So, that said, LoneStarMopars.com is the website. You can find us Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all three at Lone Star Mopars. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe if you have not. New videos every Wednesday and Saturday, 9 a.m. Texas time. Jump your charger across the creek. YouTube just might notify you. Most importantly, I hope you have yourself a fantastic weekend, and I totally got this done before the cutoff point on the card, which is coming in 3 seconds.